Welcome to your low intensity, steady state cardio workout. This one is supportive throughout your cycle phases. It's going to keep things around that 50 to 65% effort level. So, something that you can use on any day of your cycle. I am just days away from my period, and this one felt just right. We are aiming for a target heart rate zone here to keep it in that low intensity, steady state. So, I'll include a resource in the description of this video below to help you calculate your personalized heart rate zones for this low intensity steady state. Again, we're trying to stay between 50 and 65%. That will feel at times like you have to move very slowly, and I want that to be okay. This one ended up being a very sweaty session with very low intensity. So, when we create that focused mind muscle connection where we're creating the muscle tension without the external load, there's a lot of heat that we generate from the inside out. It can help clear any stagnation, things that are feeling stuck. You'd be amazed at how this body weight movement can go so far to clear pathways in the body, both mentally and physically. So we feel this more clear-headed state after this type of work. So I hope that becomes true for you. You can use this practice as a complement to your strength training sessions in the first half of the cycle. So maybe you're taking a day off from those intense weighted workouts, or maybe you're using it to shift more into protect and preserve mode in the second half of the cycle. This is one that this type of movement I always turn to in the days leading up to my period, even sometimes in the first few days of flow, just to help keep energy moving and to promote that healthy circulation. It goes a long way to support recovery and to ease symptoms if they are arising in that transition that happens around your period. For today's workout, we have 8 different exercises. They're all body weight only, so you don't have to fuss with equipment. You just need a comfortable space to move around. We're going to be working 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. That 15-second interval, again, it's not something we need to recover the heart rate since we're staying at that steady state the whole time. It's really just enough time to transition. We are switching body positions with each movement pattern to take advantage of peripheral heart action. That just means the heart is pumping blood to the upper and lower body at the same time. And we're kind of switching that mode each time to help improve conditioning. It's also going to stimulate that slower metabolic burning pathway, so burn more fat during this workout session. I encourage you to be gentle with yourself, go easy on yourself, and take what you need from this workout. So you might be moving very slowly with me, kind of taking your time with each rep. You might be picking up the pace a little bit, but staying in that sweet spot. I really want you to make this workout work for you. Today's workout won't have a specific warm-up since we're staying in that warm-up intensity for the entire duration, but I did include a few cool down stretches just to help resolve the stress response and to bring the heart rate all the way back down to your baseline at the end. So now let's get started. Welcome to your total body, low intensity, steady state cardio session. This is a great one to use on days where you just want to get moving, but you don't want any fuss. So we're not using any equipment. We're using body weight only. It's going to be low intensity, slow and steady throughout. This means that it is supportive throughout your cycle, but again, to make it cycle friendly for those lower energy phases, we need to really focus on the low intensity part of this. That means you're staying around 50 to 65% of your maximum effort. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, figure out your maximum heart rate. I'll include a link to one of my blog posts below that's going to walk you through the calculation exactly so that you know exactly which heart rate you are aiming for during this session. It's likely lower than what you think. So I'm aiming for somewhere between 120 and 140. I've got my heart rate monitor ready to go so I can track that and keep the intensity low. That means we're moving slowly and intentionally and taking our time. We do have 45-second working intervals with 15-second transition intervals, but you shouldn't be gasping for air by the time you get to that recovery interval. It's just a way to transition to the next exercise. We are taking advantage of peripheral heart action in that we are moving the upper body and then the lower body. We're going to be changing body positions quite often. So take your time as you're moving from the ground back up so that you can keep that heart rate slow and steady. I will get our timer started. I'll walk you through Each movement as we get to it, our first one is a step out squat with a lat pull. So I really want you to hug the elbows in behind you as you come up. And then as you step out, you're reaching overhead. So squatting and pulling back to center. Again, taking a look at your heart rate, stay in that sweet spot between 50 and 60%. Let's get ready. Our first interval starts now. So we step it out and pull it in. See how slowly I'm moving. So this is total body work, which means it will naturally have a higher energy demand. Breathe in as you step out. Exhale, hug those elbows in. Really want you to focus on activating the upper body muscles. So we won't have the added resistance of weights here. So you really have to create the muscle tension. Step out and squeeze it up. As I mentioned, we're going to be alternating body positions. So next up, we're coming down to the mat for our plank lunges. So get ready to move that direction now. So take a look at your heart rate. I'm right at 120, right in that sweet spot. We're going to come into sort of a plank or downward dog. And then you're going to bend your knees deeply, bring your hips toward your heels. And as you exhale, launch forward to plank. Inhale, come back, keep your heels lifted, hover the knees, and launch forward. Here, I want you to feel those shoulders firing. You should feel the quads in that launch position. And you could be moving through super fast, one rep and then the next, but I'd rather you slow it down, focus on creating some muscle tension, press the heels and the ball mounds of the feet back toward the back of the room. So you're trying to stretch the mat apart. We'll be here a few more breaths, and then we're switching it up once again to a more upright position. So come down, find your kneeling position. We're going to be kneeling to stand, and then you have two options. You're either tapping the knee, maybe crossing the body, elbow to opposite knee, or a full toe touch. I'll demonstrate both here. So we step up with one foot and then either toe touch, or as you switch, you can cross the body, whichever feels right for you. I want you to step back with the leg or knee that is lifted, and just alternate sides. So as you come in through that lift, that'll naturally change sides each time. Slow things down here. Find that control on the way down. It's so interesting. We have to consciously make that effort to slow down. I feel like so many of us, myself included, are in this mode of rushing, of creating urgency, especially in our workouts. And rest. We're going to come down for our hand release push-ups. These I recommend keeping the knees down. Again, we're trying to keep it low intensity. You want your hands just slightly wider than shoulder width. And we're going to come all the way down, release the hands, and push up. So come down, lift the palms, and push the floor away. You want your elbows to be slightly out. So you're somewhere between creating a T with those upper arms and an A. So we're not all the way hugged in, but we're not too far out. Helps load the shoulders effectively. As you come up into that plank position, curl the pubic bone slightly under. That'll help tone the low belly. Last quality rep here. Press it up. Take a quick posture break for the hands, and we're going to kind of switch it up. So we're coming into our downward dog. We're going to do side plank on each side and then a walking burpee. So I'll guide you through. We're simply walking the hands to the feet in between. So downward dog, we're going to turn to one side, open it up all the way, let yourself land, and then switch, pivot the feet, open it up, and come back. Now, step the feet to the hands, reach up high onto the toes, hands overhead, and then we come back. We open it up, really engage the back here, walk it forward, overhead. So Again, you might not get a ton of reps here moving at this slower pace, and that's okay. We really want to give ourselves time to land in each position. Walking burpee, and then we open. Next time you step forward, stay there. Our next movement pattern is a side lunge with a heel tap. So here we're going to take the feet wider than hips width, but not so wide that you feel that stretch across the pelvic floor. Open the arms to T, press the shoulder blades onto the back. Tap one heel, come up, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then back up. Here, really want you to slow it down, try to keep your chest lifted, and come up. This is another movement pattern where it's so easy to let the pace take over and we lose the embodiment. We lose that sense of being in the body, moved from the inside out. So if you find that happening, slow it down, find a deeper breath. Really focus on your form here. Keep the chest upright and open. Just one more rep here, and then we'll turn so that we're parallel to the long edge of the mat for our leaning lunge. Here we're just in a leaning lunge, reaching the arms overhead, and then we'll step together to exchange. Nothing too fancy, but we're going to work those shoulders just a little bit. Lean forward, reach, and then squeeze the palms to the midline behind you. So pinkies are down, and then pinkies are up. We're getting that little bit of rotation. Squeeze the palms together at each end. Stay in that hinged position. Keep the knees deeply bent. How low can you go? And stay there. Reach. So fingers and toe tips stretching apart and then coming together. I want you to imagine like you're moving through water. Press it behind you. Squeeze those palms together. You'll feel this in the shoulders and the back by the end. And rest. Bear plank is next. We're coming into a bear plank tap. So you're going to tap opposite shoulders and then single leg bear press. So you're going to straighten one leg at a time, lifting the opposite foot off the mat. So bear plank, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Tap one shoulder, tap the other, and then lift one foot as you straighten the opposite leg. And do both sides. Tap, tap, lift. Really press that quad nice and straight. Tap. Try not to let the low belly collapse. This one you should feel in the front of the legs. I want you to really hug that opposite heel in toward the sitting bone. Lift and lift. Shoulder tap. Don't let the spine move. Lift and squeeze. And then take your time as you step your feet to your hands. Slowly come up. That is the end of round one. We have two more just like that. So now that you know the movement patterns, you can drop into that moving meditation. Focus on your breath. Check in with your heart rate. Let's begin. I'm at 120. So right in that sweet spot for 50 to 65%. I am just days away from my period. So I'm definitely interested in keeping things low intensity. But I love this type of work. I always come back to these body weight, low intensity practices to keep me moving. This is one of those workouts that you can save for days where you just want to move, but you don't want it to be overly complex or overly intense. Can promote circulation, come through center. Plank launch is next. So especially in these transition phases, that increase in circulation and blood flow, so beneficial. Let's come into our downward dog and then bend the knees, lift the heels, launch it forward, plank. It's like you're catching the body when the shoulders are over the wrists. I want you to try and move the body in more of a straight line, back and forth, rather than sort of arching the back up. We want to keep that work in the shoulders, the legs. This is really a full body exercise, But again, I want you to imagine the spine traveling in a horizontal line rather than up and down. Breathe in and exhale as you launch. Really press through the ball mounds of the feet, spread the toes, and come down. Find your kneeling position. So we're going from kneeling to standing, either with that cross, kind of that rotation, or full toe touch, depending on what feels best in your body. Come into position. Let's begin. Step it up, either toe touch or knee, and then we switch. Just exchanging sides here. Again, this is one, because we have that sweeping action, you might feel some urgency creeping up, but I want you to keep it slow and controlled. So how much control can you create in the hip flexors to resist the leg falling back down? And instead, you're bringing it into land each time. Again, most of these movement patterns incorporate the entire body. So we're working upper and lower together. Will naturally be a higher energy demand. We're going to come down to our hand release push-up. So again, I recommend staying on the knees. That one put me up a little higher, closer to 140. So I'm going to slow things down for these push-ups. Hips are forward in the knees. We come down, release the hands, and push up. Curl the pubic bone under. So you're creating that tone in the lower belly. Make sure you release the hands fully each time and push the floor away. Really targeting the chest and the arms here. Breathe in as you come down and exhale to push. Got that plank positioning in the spine. So it lifts together, lowers together. We're not wiggling in and out. And come up. We have our walking burpee with a side plank. So we'll start with the side plank portion of that movement. We'll just open side to side and then walk the feet to the hands, reach overhead and onto the toes. Here we go. Open it up, squeeze and press the shoulder blades onto the back. Give yourself time to land in that side plank, then walk it up, reach, come back down. Part of creating this improved circulation is to cover some ground. So we want to travel. We want to move through these different body positions to get that sense of flow. We're moving anything that feels stuck. I love this type of work where I am in my cycle right now because it can help the onset of your period happen a little bit more gently, where you're releasing anything that might be stuck. Let's switch, come to standing, slowly rise up. We're coming into our side lunge with heel taps next. So feet are wider apart. Again, keep the chest lifted. You want it nice and upright. Let's go. So we come down, tap towards the inner edge of the foot, and then arms to T. Really want you to feel the stretch in the inner thigh, in that straight leg as you come down. Take your time. I need to slow it down just a little bit. Checking that heart rate. Creeped up just a little bit with that walking burpee. Let's open it up and slowly lower. So both feet stay on the ground. You're just sitting back into that chair, side to side. Breathing here. Open it up and across. Let's switch, leaning lunge now. So remember, you're squeezing the arms overhead, and then imagine like you're swimming. Turn the palms back, pinkies are up, palms squeeze in. So pinkies down at the top, pinkies up at the bottom. You're turning the palm. Let's get ready. Reach and switch. Reach and switch. You got this. Really want you to squeeze those palms like they would touch in each end of the movement. Like you might touch your palms overhead and then behind you. Feel that tremendous activation in the arms and shoulders. And then can you bend a little deeper into the legs. It doesn't have to be super fast or intense. We're creating intentional muscle tension here. We've got 10 more seconds. Feeling those triceps as you squeeze behind. And rest. Bear plank is next. So remember, we're tapping opposite shoulders, keeping the position of the spine completely fixed, and then we're hugging one heel at a time into the sitting bones for that leg extension. Hover the knees. Let's begin. Tap, tap, one leg, and then the other. As you come up, I want you not to change the upper body position. I want you to focus on the leg extension. So we keep the upper body fixed. We just launch one leg at a time in that leg extension. This is the end of round 2. We have one more round to go where we might slow things down even further to let that be more of a cool down round. We will have just a gentle cool down at the end to send you on your way. Let's finish it out and rest. Slowly come up to stand. That's the end of round 2. Check in with your heart rate, and we will close it out with round 3. Bear planks, they're so sneaky. Always send the heart rate super high. So if you need to slow this next movement down to catch your breath, to get back into that sweet spot, that is okay. You can take your time, really load the pattern nice and slow. Breathing here, let your breath make some sound. It's the clearest signal of your exertion. And sometimes your heart rate monitor might be reading one thing, but the exertion in your body is telling you something different. So I want you to trust your body first, technology second. Reach up and squeeze. Let's rest. We're coming into our plank launch next. So we're going to take the hands down, come into your downward dog. Here, the key is keeping those feet parallel, like you're hugging the ankles and the inner heels just slightly together. So you keep that nice alignment. And then we're trying to keep the spine low, like you're trying to stay under a board or a plank. So we don't want the spine to lift up and the hips to lift up. We want it to be more straightforward and back, like you're loading a spring and then launching it forward. Feel those legs fire up. Notice if your heels tend to splay in or out. Again, create some of that conscious awareness to parallel the inner and outer edges of the feet. And come down, find your kneeling position. We'll transition. Kneeling to stand is next. We'll move in about 5 seconds. So again, acknowledge if you need to slow things down, that's okay. Step up, toe touch, or knee tap, and switch. So I'm going to intentionally slow this one down. This is one that tends to demand a lot from the heart rate. So we're trying to keep it in that low intensity, steady state. So just continue moving intentionally, slowly, with control. As you're coming through either the knee or the toe tap, make sure you're not rounding your upper back to meet that opposite leg, but you're lifting that opposite leg to meet the upper body. It's a different sensation, different mechanism of action. And rest. Come back to your kneeling position. That one, about 135. So feels a little bit higher than that. So still going to slow things down. We've got our hand release push-ups. Let's begin. Take it down, release the hands fully, and push up. Release and push. Again, make sure you're not letting the curves of the spine take over. We want to move the spine down in a single line and up in a single line. Make sure you're toning the low belly at the top, curling the pubic bone under. You got this. Really press through the finger pads. We're here for 5. And rest. Shake it out. We've got that side plank to each side, and then a walking burpee. So it's one of my favorite movement patterns for traveling, for covering some ground. And it's kind of that low complexity movement that helps promote circulation. So just stepping forward, reaching up, and stepping back. You could be in just that portion of the movement, and it does so much for your circulation. Come forward, reach up onto the toes. Even just tapping from the floor to the ceiling, you'll be amazed at how much you can clear in just that simple movement pattern. Helps to wake the body up, unlock that natural energy. Reach and return. Open and open. Next up, side lunge. Take your time as you transition back to standing. We are so close to the end here. Let's come into position. Open the arms out to T, and let's begin. So sit back into your chair, keep the chest nice and lifted, and open. So I want you to slow things down as you come into that loaded position. Really sit back and keep that chest lifted like you were trying to balance something on the crown of your head. At the same time, hug the shoulder blades onto the back. So this is for the upper body as well. We use the legs to generate the heat and the power, and then we have to focus on mind-muscle connection to activate the upper body. We have just 2 more exercises left, and then a very brief cool down. Coming into our leaning lunge next. So remember, squeeze the palms and squeeze the palms. Turn them in and then out. Find that rotation at the wrists. Let's get ready. Leaning lunge and exchange. Nice and easy. Keep that bend in the knees nice and deep. Not arching the lower back. All curves are neutral. So we just maintain the natural curvature of the spine. Try to keep the arms elevated, so don't let them drop down. Don't let them check out. I want embodied, engaged. We reach it forward and back. So your arms are working this entire time. Keep the neck long. Try not to shrug the shoulders. Last 2 and 1. Slowly come up. Last exercise is our bear plank to that leg extension. So bear plank taps. We'll come into position. Let your shoulders be right over your wrists. Hips are over the knees. Coil through the belly. Hover the knees. Tap, tap. Then one leg straightens, other leg straightens. Tap, tap. Find that rhythm. Make it slow and steady. So I really want you to feel that transfer of weight from one side to the other without adjusting the spine, without moving the shoulders. Everything stays nice and controlled. Breathe here. Lift and lift. Again, keep hugging the inner heels toward the midline so that you don't lose that activation in the legs. And rest. Slowly come down to hands and knees. We're going to let the hips sway side to side. We'll just let the breathing slow down for a minute or 2 here. And we will go right into our cool down. So a few rounds of breath, cat and cow. Inhale, lift the gaze, open the chest, and then exhale, round. I want you to see how much sensation you can create in this cat and cow. So you're dragging the hands and knees together and then pressing them energetically apart as you arch the spine. So inhale, we hug to the midline, to the center, and exhale, press away, round the spine. Spread your wings, chin to chest. Last big breath here. And exhale. Stay in your tabletop position as you inhale, open the right arm nice and high, stretch the fingertips skyward, create some length, and then exhale, thread it under. Bring that right ear, temple, crown to the mat, and then press the back of your right hand, drag that right shoulder in the opposite direction. Then work to square the hips, lift the hip creases up and back. We want to create some nice rotation in the upper back here. So you're spidering the left finger pads, twisting open. Take a few deep breaths here. Just again, allowing that heart rate to return to normal. Shouldn't have a long distance to travel, so we didn't hit our peak heart rate today, but we want to help resolve even that less intense stress response. Let's come back up through center, exchange. So left arm reaches skyward and then wrap it under. Spider your right fingertips, create that nice opening in the upper body. Lift the hip creases up and back, work to square the hips so that we're facilitating more rotation in the upper back. We have so much range of motion that is underutilized in the upper spine. So this type of stretch can help to awaken that movement. Take a few more very deep belly breaths here. And then we'll slowly come up through center. Puppy pose is next. So walk the hands out. You can bring chin or crown to the mat. If you want to stretch the shoulders a bit more, walk your hands in, press the palms together. Soften heart, belly, chest toward the thighs, toward the floor, and maybe even bend the arms here. So just get that nice stretch and awakening in the side bodies. Enjoy a few more rounds of breath here, really lifting the hip creases up and back. I want you to shine your sitting bones, broaden the sacrum, wag your tail a little bit side to side. And then we'll slowly come back to that tabletop. Step your feet to your hands. Be generous with the distance between your feet. So it's a little bit wider than our typical forward bend. You can keep the head lifted in more of a halfway lift, or if your heart rate's feeling back to normal, you can release the head and neck. Just let the body hang heavy, maybe even ragdoll with opposite elbows. Just let that sway side to side. And then we'll slowly come up halfway lift, inhale. And then all the way up, exhale. One more stretch here. Let's inhale, reach the arms overhead. Side bend, bring one hand to your hip, reach the other hand up and over. I want you to lengthen evenly out of both sides of the waist here. Soften the shoulders. And switch. Come through center, big inhale. Exhale to the other side. So this cool down, kind of the bare minimum to bring your heart rate back down to normal, to give your body a little bit of a stretch. Let's circle out the shoulders. So if you have more time and you want to spend more time in your cool down, I encourage you to do that. Let's give a few hip circles here, side to side, like you're stepping over a gate. Last one. Then we'll take a huge breath in together. Inhale. And as you exhale, sigh it out. That is your workout for today. I want you to celebrate yourself for showing up. Chances are, if you are reaching for this low intensity steady state workout. Perhaps you were feeling a bit low energy, or maybe you're just supporting your more intense sessions with that more active rest day. Either way, you showed up, you moved your body, and that's what we're here for. We want to reduce the friction that exists between ourselves, our mental energy, and showing up to do the work. So you did it. You made it through today's workout. I want to thank you so much for being here and for letting your body be moved.